Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Srinivaslu Saya. Yeah, thanks for your concern, Amna. Yeah, today I'm feeling much better. 2 days back, I had a bad throat and then cold. I'm on the medication. So excuse me in case I I'm coughing in between the class. Just please excuse me. Yeah, I'm feeling much better compared to 2 days ago. I hope, today's class, I'll be able to so pull through without any issues. Okay. Um, there are only 5 participants today. Normally, class strength is 8 or 9 people, but today there are I can see only 5. Let's start. I think if we keep waiting, then we'll lose the time. And okay, let's start. Yeah, before I start, I would like to check whether any of you got a chance to do the assignments for Module 1 and Module 2. I hope I uploaded the assignment 1 and 2 for Module 1 and 2 respectively, and it is available in Edureka LMS. I hope you got a chance to go through it. Just a minute. Yeah, Saifal has got a question. In slide 41, T-head element, it says that useful for enabling scrolling table content without moving the headers. What does this mean? And after that, in another line, it says that but browsers do not support fixed header scrolling it, but points to just the opposite. It is not getting. Okay, I'm not getting these 2 points. Yeah. Is it in Module 2 or Module 3? Saif Ali. Module 2. Okay, let me just go back. Good, Amna. If you're able to do the assignments, that's great. Good to hear. I would suggest you to raise a ticket. You go to LMS of Edureka, and there is a create support ticket. Go and create support ticket, and then you say that you have finished the assignments of Module 1 and 2, and attach the solution. What you did, basically the HTML, CSS files to the to the support ticket, and then create the support ticket. Since you attach your files, the support ticket will download and they'll pass it on to me. This routing your assignment submission through Edureka support team is just an interim. I think there are some issues which Edureka is resolving. Once those are resolved, you will be able to submit directly to the website itself. Until then, this is just an interim arrangement. Please bear with it. In between, I'll be muting for a few seconds because at that time I'll be coughing. That's the reason I mute myself. Okay. And Amna has one more question. In HTML forms, how do we change the color and the font of the value in input tag? Yeah, Amna, today we'll be briefly talking about it. If time permits, I'll do that today. Otherwise, we'll discuss about that in more detail. There is one module by name HTML5 forms audio video. Audio video, basically you can just finish it off quickly within half an hour maximum or 1 hour. And since we'll have 2 hours time on that day, we'll spend more time on forms because forms is one of the important element on a web page. At that time, I'll be covering that. Is that okay, Amna? Yeah. And Rohan has a question saying, I'm able to download the recording class. I'm able to. Rohan, are you saying that you are able to download or you are not able to download? I think you will not be able to download. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, as a policy, Edureka does not allow downloading of the class recordings because you know that on the internet it can be shared. This class is basically for the people who actually pay for the class, and that's the reason why it is restricted only among the people sorry, who pay for the class. See, as you know, I don't know whether you know, you as a Edureka class participants, you have lifetime access to Edureka website. Okay, that means anytime you can log into Edureka website, and you will be seeing all the classes, some courses you have taken in Edureka, and you can go and watch anytime you want, any number of times. Did that answer your question, Rohan? Yeah, and Karthik has a question: how long the class recordings will be available post completion? As I said, Karthik, see, as long as Edureka as a company exists, and you'll have access to all these recordings, unlimited number of times. You can play any number of times you want. Yeah, it's a lifetime access, as long as so Edureka exists, and as long as you are alive. Did that answer your question, Karthik? Okay, great. And let me just go through one by one. I did answer Karthik's question, and I did answer Rohan's question, and yeah, I answered Amna's question that I'll be covering HTML5, and Saif Ali has got question. Yeah, let's briefly go back to module 2. On slide 41, he has a question. Let me just open that slide. Module 2. Yeah, this is module 2. Slide number 41. Yeah. Yeah, I'm reading the Saif Ali's question once again. Yeah, so in this slide 41, T head element, it says that useful for enabling scrolling the table content without moving headers. Yeah. Okay, great. Let me just make it bigger. Yeah. So yeah, Saif Ali is referring to, he has a question regarding these 2 points. Let me just make it a little bigger. Yeah, he has a question basically on these 3 lines. Okay, so he was asking what does I mean by this line, which says that useful for enabling scrolling table content without moving the headers. Okay, there's one more question. Yeah, so and is it possible to download these presentations? Yeah, just let me, before I start answering Saif Ali questions, Lauren has asked another question. Is it possible to download these presentation? Lauren, yes. If you log into Edureka LMS site, there is on the left hand side, you might see, depends on, because I get to see a different screen. Probably you might be seeing the different screen. So on the left hand side, probably you might see either start learning, or you might see LMS. So you can click one of these. So this will, if you are able to see LMS, great. So in the middle of the page. So there is a modules 1 to 10 are listed. If you click on one of those modules, it expands, and there you will see the slides and as well as the assignments or anything else related to that module. You can just go on the download from there. So yeah, slides are downloadable, but video recordings are not downloadable. Did it answer your question, Lorraine? Yeah, whenever you have a net connection, that time you can just download it. So generally, these slides are available. Most of the times they are uploaded just before the class, and the video recordings will be available within 6 to 8 working hours. Yeah. So yeah, if you have issues, I think I'm answering Rohan's question. He had issue with downloading the slides. Yeah, if you have any issue regarding the downloading of the slides, I don't know. Probably whether they allow the downloading of the slides or not. But you can just raise a support ticket to Edureka, saying that you'd like to download the slides. And then put a query to the support team. They'll get back to you. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that the video recordings are not downloadable, but slides, you can just raise a support ticket and then they'll tell you whether they're downloadable or not. So if they're downloadable, great. If they're not downloadable, probably you can view the slides while you are connected to the net. So can you raise a support ticket, Rohan? Okay. Yeah. So I think, Lorraine, I think I answered your question as well. You can also raise a support ticket and then ask a query. Okay. Yeah. Coming back to Saif Ali's question on this. So here, this is, let me give a brief context. So this is the table tags called T-head element, which is part of that table tag. So here I mentioned that this is basically for grouping, specifying the header row of a table. And basically, since it's also tagged on that tag, you can style it the way you want. So yeah, the third point which I marked here is, here I said that useful for enabling scrolling table content without moving the headers. So if you're familiar, let me just go back. So I need, let's say, I need to create some table. How do I know? Let me go back to an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Yeah, I'm just opening the module 3 quiz. Okay. So I hope you're able to see my screen. Okay. So yeah. Here I'm inserting a row. Let me just, yeah. So can all of you see my Excel spreadsheet? One of you can. Yeah. So here, as you can see, the first row, I have this is the heading of this spreadsheet, which said, here, let me see, I can make it more meaningful. Yeah. So here I have a serial number. Okay. Here I have a question. And so here, let's change it. Let me just, yeah. So you can see this, right? This is a, so you know that okay, this table consists of the headers. Assume that since this looks Excel also looks like basically it's a table. So heading row here is the serial number, question, answer, and explanation. Okay. So note that this heading applies to all the rows of this table. So now, see, now I start scrolling. Now I start scrolling. So you see when you scroll down, the heading row is disappeared. So because along with that rows also, that since the heading row is also another row, it just scrolled up and you are not able to see. So ideal thing would be there's something called an Excel spreadsheet in Word version. There's I'm not familiar because I'm familiar with the older version of MS Word. There's a thing called freeze cells. I don't know whether you're familiar. I use it in older versions of Microsoft, where you can basically freeze the cells. Clear content formats, row height, unhide. No, I'm not able to see it now. Basically, when you freeze the cells, what happens is this row number 2, stays at the same place. Okay, and when you scroll, only the rows from below row 3 and below. So when scrolling, only those say 3 will goes up, 4 goes up, and 3 and 4 when they go up, they will not be visible. You'll be able to see from 5 onwards. Means the table row, the heading row will get fixed. So that even if they're down in the table, you know that which column has got what information. So actually that is a good feature which Microsoft Word has. But ideally, since you know which is the heading row of a table, the browser can use that information so that if you style it, saying that okay, freeze the heading row, so then that row will be frozen, and it means it stays in the same place where it is shown. What it means is it doesn't go beyond the visible screen, so it's always visible, and then only the rows will be scrolled up or down so that you always see that. So sorry, I could not demonstrate that in Excel spreadsheet. I want to demonstrate. I use this feature. I hope idea is clear. Saifali? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's called, I think, freeze pane, right? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that is. I think it's called. Thanks for Elijah. I think it's called freeze pane. Yeah, basically you can freeze that the pane which contains only the table header, and then so that will be frozen, and only the rows will be scrolled up or down. So yeah, coming back to that point. So you got the idea, right? For what purpose it can be used. So see, note that I said this coming to the second point, where this will also be useful for printing the header on each page. Let's say that okay, now see earlier whatever that web page that is displayed on a browser, it was mainly meant for viewing by the human users. But note that when you now the web has become so advanced, like from the MS Word file, you would like to directly print it to the printer. Similarly, the expectation that whatever the page which you see on the browser, users would like to print as is on the printer. So in such a case, assume that now you are printing the huge table, let's say financials of a company. Okay, so at that time, so the financial balance sheet will have the headings, and most probably these headings will be there only the first page when the table starts. But since the information might scroll, might span across multiple pages, maybe 10 pages or even 100 pages, at that time it will be good to have the same heading which is there in the beginning of the table in the subsequent pages as well when that table is printed. So since you clearly identify, give the semantic meaning for the top row, that it is the heading of the table, then when it is printed, that same heading can be repeated at the start of each page when it is printed. So that way, whenever someone is looking at the probably let's say 50th page, they can see that okay, what column corresponds to what information. So see, especially when if it is a, let's say probably it has got like 10 or not 10, about 5 to 6 columns, and all of them are numbers. Then it's good to have what that heading contains, since it's all numerals. Yeah. Coming to the last point, which says, okay, I hope that. So did you get the point? How it will be useful while printing the header? Okay. Yeah. When I said, see, this is a whatever. This is my, what do you call? My thought process. So because that's the very purpose of marking this header of the table is that, okay, to have semantic meaning, and from that semantic meaning we should be able to get maximum benefit out of it. So those are the benefits which I talked about in the previous 2 bullet points while scrolling and also while printing. So what I'm saying is that, see, currently probably the browser implementers they haven't thought about this, that yes, this is the way it can be used, and at least last time when I checked it, it was not implemented in any of the browsers. What I mean is, so if you scroll down in a big table, basically the heading row doesn't freeze the pane. Means it not stays in place. It just scrolls up and it falls beyond the viewable area of your browser screen. Therefore, it will not be visible. So, like when it is printed, you would like to see the heading rows. Similarly, since as you see, your browser window is also just like your A4 or A3 size sheet. So there also you would like to see the heading rows when you're viewing it. Okay, so this feature, the freezing of the panes, is not yet implemented in the browsers. That's what I meant. Did that answer the question, Saifali? Okay, great. Yeah. So anyone else? I'm glad that, okay, Saifali, you are reading through the slides. I'm very glad. I'm happy. As I said, so see, I really done a considerable research on the web and multiple sources, and then prepared these slides so that I wanted to get the maximum benefit with the least effort. That's the reason why I put a lot of theory in the slides. But say ideally, I would like to explain each and every bullet points what I put it in the slide. But unfortunately, if I start explaining them, it will become very theoretical and very boring. That's why in the class I prefer to, for the benefit of everyone, to keep their interest level up. I focus more on the theory practical side, demonstration of these features. And as I said, since these slides really take about close to 6 to 9 hours to really demonstrate, unfortunately I will not be able to demonstrate all of them. So I want you to try it out yourself. Okay, so that if you try yourself, that's why you get a hands-on. You'll become confident. And also, if you have any questions, you can always ask in the next session. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. So as I said, please go through the slides. As I said, I'll not be covering all the slides in detail. So read through, and then the most probably what I would like you to do is, what are the keywords which I put it in the slides? You can just copy paste them and search in Google. Most probably you will be able to read more about it on the Google itself by navigating and searching for it. Yeah, Saifali has a question. Can we increase the width of the label tag of the form? Yeah. Width, you mean the space in which it gets displayed, Saifali? Or okay, yeah, you can increase it, because see, ultimately label is also, see, note that see, you have to mark up whatever you'd like to display, like for example, first name, last name, address, date of birth. So that text you have to enclose in between start label tag and end label tag. So once you enclose it, it becomes a HTML element. So since the label is now, it's a HTML element, now using CSS, you can style it the way you want. Note that most of the time, I mean, only few attributes, CSS attribute will make sense on some HTML elements. If you use those correct CSS attributes, then yes, you can style using width as well. Width is yes. To answer your question directly, yes, it is possible to increase the width of the label. Yeah, just like width, probably I can demonstrate it today if it is possible. Okay, is that fine? Yeah, as I know, you might have tried width. As I said, I mean, not all the attributes are applicable on each of the elements. So you have to try. I mean, until you become a master of CSS styling, so you have to try with the different styles. That's how we learn. Yeah, it's quite possible that it might be working. So you have to try it on different things. So let me see, in case if I am not able to answer today, so I'll get back probably tomorrow. I can demonstrate that. Is that fine? But I use it. I mean, it works. Okay. Yeah, just that you should know what is the right property to set it. Just give me a minute. I mean, I'm feeling I'm having running nose. I'm back. I mean, can you hear me? Yeah, Rohan has a question. I mean, how can we see the questions from others? Yeah, I think this Citrix GoToWebinar has a limitation. So any questions that are asked by others, so it will be seen only by me, the organizer of the webinar. I think others will not be able to see. Or probably it's by design. But yeah, for that reason, I'm reading out the questions before I answer them. I think you're able to get the context when I answer the questions. So, okay, yeah. In case, I mean, if you're not able to get the context, I mean, in what context I'm answering that question, you can always ping me and say, okay, yes, so what is this answer for? So then I'll be able to so repeat the question and then answer. Is that fine, Rohan? Okay, sure. Okay, great. Yeah, let's start with today's module. That's module 3. Yeah. I hope all of you are able to hear me loud and clear, and you're able to see my screen. Okay, Saif Ali is able to see my screen. Okay, great. So, welcome back to module 3 of front-end web development. This is your instructor, Srinivasulu Saya. Today we'll be talking about CSS. Here I would like to ask a question. So what is CSS? You can just answer in the chat window. What is CSS? Can you expand CSS? Because so this we briefly mentioned about it in the first module. Yes, James answered correctly. So others, Rohan also answered correctly. Yeah, Karthik answered partially. He missed out to the first one. Yeah, others can try answering the question. What is CSS? Chintala Manoj, that's not correct. Yeah, only the middle term is correct. Amna Khan, yes, yours is correct. Yeah, great. I think 5 people answered it. Yeah, so I think so. From now on, I'll just keep asking such quick, short questions. Yeah, just can you just expand what is HTML? HTML. HTML. Yes, Rohan answered correctly. Yes, Chintala Manoj answered correctly. James answered correctly. Karthik answered correctly. Elijah also answered correctly. Great. So I'm glad that all of you know what is HTML, what is CSS. Great. Yeah. So CSS stands for cascading style sheets. So as it says, I mean, basically it's a style sheet, but it has got a property of what is called cascading. Cascading means basically, you know the word cascade, right? So basically you build, whenever, let's say when your cascade is something like, I mean, it's a structure. So if you don't know, let me just search for the meaning of what is the cascade for the benefit of others. Okay. For some reason the net is slow. Yeah. So as you can see, this is the meaning of cascade. So you can read it out yourself. Basically, what it means is something like here. It's a chain of steps, okay, in which these properties, you can see here the chain of steps. And yeah, basically these, when I said cascading style sheet, you can specify the property on an element in multiple places. Like for example, you have some element, let us say paragraph or table. So it's not that you have to specify the style for that element only in one place. You can give multiple properties at multiple places, and all of them will get cascaded. And what you get, the final output is the accumulation effect of all these properties. So when you're cascading, what happens is, let's say you have stage 1 and you have stage 2. So in stage 1, you defined a property like say font color as blue. And in stage 2, you set font color as green. Since there is a what do you call repetition of property color, text color and text color in stage 1 and stage 2, basically whatever is the last stage, so that takes the final effect. So since in first stage you defined the color as blue, but in the next stage the color is given as green, so the last stage property, since there is a clash of there is a overlap, what do you call, repetition of properties in the stage 1 and stage 2, the property which has got in the stage 2 overrides the properties which are defined before, if there is a overlap of property. If there is no overlap of property, then it gets cascaded, means it gets inherited, and then finally you see the output. So did you get the meaning of cascading? Because this is fundamental concept you need to understand in CSS. Did you understand what the meaning of cascading? Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is one thing you need to really understand. How do we define the stages? Yeah, there's a Karthik asked a question, how do you define the stages? So I just use a generic term, a common word like stage, but actually here you can define using what is called CSS selectors. Using CSS selectors, you can define, you can assume each of the CSS declaration which you defined using the CSS selectors is some sort of stage. Okay, and you can define basically in multiple places. If you remember my previous slides in the previous sessions, so you can define the CSS styling in an external style sheet, and you can link it with the HTML file using link element, and you can define within the HTML element using the style tags. And you can also use there's something called style attribute. So on the element you can define style attribute, and there also you can define the style. So these are the three places you can basically style an element, right? So you can consider each of these three places also as a group of stages as well. So you might be wondering, when you define in three places, can you define the style in all the three places? Yes, but as I said before, I mean, it's always good to have the CSS styling separate from the HTML. That is, it is recommended that you define the style in an external style sheet. That way, the structure of the page is in HTML and styling is there in the external CSS file. That way, you separated both style and structure. Okay, but yeah, some if you see any of these websites, including Google and Facebook, all these top websites, they still do styling using style attribute, style tag inside the HTML itself. But that's not a good practice. It unnecessarily blows up your HTML file. But you should have very strong reason for putting it there. Both within the style tag and as well as the style attribute. Only you have to use as a last resort. Okay. So yeah, I think we will demonstrate that where all we can place this styling when I start giving the demos. Okay. Let me just So yeah, today's we are in module 3 CSS. So objectives of this module is so at the end of the session, at the end of the module, you should be able to you will understand what is the CSS syntax and where all it can be specified, and the structure of CSS declarations. What are the different components in a CSS declaration, and also you will understand each of these HTML elements. For styling, you need to have some model. So that model is called CSS box model. Almost all the elements, including inline and block elements, and including audio, video files, everything almost. So they follow what is called CSS box model. And you'll understand what is a box model, what are the different properties on a box model, and so on. And finally, having learned all this, then your end goal is to style these HTML elements using cascading style sheet, that is CSS. Yeah, so as we said, so we'll be covering the topics in sub-modules. So in this module 3.1, so we'll be having a brief discussion about CSS, and then what are the different places where we can put this CSS style declarations, and what is the syntax of it, and finally the box model. This will cover in the sub-module 1 of module 3. So this is you are familiar with this slide. This we discussed in the first module. So CSS stands for cascading style sheet. As I said, this CSS files or CSS styles describes the look and feel, look and formatting of the web page. When I said here page, it's a web page. So basically, you can define the styles for presentation onto the display screen, or it could be on a print device as well. So you can style it. Styling, you understand, right? Giving the indentation, changing the font size, making it italics, bold, changing the color, and so on. That's all is a style in presentation. So note that CSS is not only used along with HTML, it can be used along with other markup languages like XHTML, XML, and SVG. XHTML stands for XML plus HTML, which is one of the standards. This we'll discuss more in tomorrow's session. XML stands for extended markup language. Is it extended? Let me just go back, because these acronyms are tough to remember. So it is XML. Yeah, XML stands for extensible, not extensible markup language. So you might be familiar with nowadays. Even XML is also used as one of the data exchange formats between the web applications. Like for example, this you can see this PPTX, this presentation slide. Let me just go back and then show that. So this is PPTX. Let me just open a notepad. So this is your PowerPoint. So this is not very XML format, but there are like Word and other there are other applications which store the information which is there in the which is like, for example, which is displayed on this application. They store earlier they were storing in a binary format, but after XML they started storing in a XML format. XML is a text-based format, just like our HTML. And SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphics, and it's again, as I said, it is used for defining the vector graphics or pictures in vector forms. So note that all these are markup language. So all these markup languages, they started from a generic language called SGML. I know. So this SGML stands for Standard Generalized Markup Language. This is the most general form of a markup language, and this is the mother of all other markup languages. So the SGML started by Adobe Incorporated. That's way back in I think early 90s or mid 90s. 1990s. So that time they had a FrameMaker software, and they did that's the first software package which stores the information in SGML format. So yeah, SGML is the, as I said, mother of all markup languages. From that, all the markup languages, including HTML, XHTML, XML, and even SVG, all these markup languages are derived from. Okay, but once all these HTML and SVG and all they became popular, so SGML basically taken a backseat. One problem with this SGML is that it is very complicated. The popularity of HTML and like XML is because it has got flexibility and it's very simple to use. That's the reason why they become popular. Okay, and you can basically use the CSS style sheet to mark up even to style even any of these generalized markup languages, like as I mentioned here. Okay, as I said, this CSS basically separates the content from the presentation. That way, you can basically style the element the way you want without even touching the HTML page. Yeah. And see, you can be wondering what are the things you can style using the CSS. Basically, these are the properties that can be styled in a CSS. Note that this is very just a sample properties. This is not exhaustive the list of properties. The actual standard CSS 3 has got more than 150 properties which you can style. As I said, not all these 150 properties will be applicable on all the elements. Only few properties will be applicable on few selected elements. Okay. So, for example, you can change layout, fonts, color, background. Color, when I mean, it could be foreground color, background color. And see, since we have the elements are modeled as a CSS box model, and since the box has got a border, margin, padding, you can control them as well. And since we'll be using lists, tables, forms, and even audio, video, anything that can be displayed in HTML page can be ideally styled if it is supported by CSS 3. Okay. Yeah. So here, as I said, so these are the three places where CSS styling can be present. Note that one is the style tag attribute. Note that here I indicated this is a style tag from here to here. So you can define a style attribute like this equal to, and then within double quotes you can specify the CSS properties. Note that for simplicity, I have just given only one property here, font size as 40 pixels. P stands for pixels. And this style is applied to the whatever this paragraph. So here the paragraph, see the end tag is here. So this is inline style. On this text, font size of 40 pixels is applied. So this way of specifying the CSS style has got the highest priority. What it means is, when this style is present, this takes precedence over all other styles wherever they are defined. Okay, and fine. So the next way to place the CSS style is, it's called in-place styling. So in-place styling is basically you can enclose the CSS declarations inside a style tag. Like this is the style tag and this is the end of style tag. And within the style tag, so P is a CSS selector. It means the selector on which basically it is a expression for selecting the HTML elements. Since here this is P. P stands for, this is paragraph element. So this one, this P and this P, both should be the same. Means, so all the paragraph elements, so this style should be applied. And so the CSS declaration start within open curly brace and close curly brace, and within that you can define any number of CSS properties. Note that this style tag can be present it need not be just in one place, it can be there in multiple places in a HTML file. Means you can have more than one style tag in a HTML page. And the third one, as I said, so this in-place styling using the style tags has got the medium priority. What it means is, you have got some, let's say, font size defined here 20px, and you also have a style attribute defined as 40px here. Then this 40px will override this 20px, and whereas this font weight bold will be taken from this. So that's what I mean by the medium priority. So the third way to specify the style is in an external script file. So this has got the lowest priority. So the way to specify this external link from the HTML to external script file is using the link element. In the link element, this rel attribute, this is a relationship. You have to specify the style sheet, and href. This href you have to define the URL path. If you remember when I said URL path, including even HTTP colon, if you recall the URL structure, any of those three, absolute, document relative or root relative, any of those three formats you can use it in place of href value. Note that if it is even, see here I defined it locally. If I don't specify just the file, if you just specify a file name, it assumes that it is available the same location where the document is present. Since document present from whichever directory, it searches in this directory for this file name, mystyle.css. I think I explained this in the previous sessions. So yeah, before we go to the demonstration, any questions here? So I hope you understand what are the three places where you can put the CSS. So Elijah asked a question: if P element contains both a style tag attribute and an external CSS class reference, which has priority if there is a conflict of style? For example, style states color is black, but the class states that it is a class reference. Class states that it is a blue. Both are referenced on the P tag. Yes. So that's a good question, Elijah. See, there are one thing, there is something called cascading. Since you said, where did you define? In external CSS file, you define the class reference, right? So basically, you define the style using a class, and on that class, you define basically the style. And note that, so since it is defined in the external style sheet, and you define style attribute. So note that, so just from this slide, so external script, what are all the styles which are defined inside the external script file? this is not script file, sorry. Let me just make a correction. This is style file. Okay. So since external style file has got the low priority compared to the style attribute, what are you defining the style attributes? That overrides because that color attribute is present in both. Did that answer your question, Elijah? So to answer your direct question, yes, the one in the style will take precedence over the style declared in the external file, because external file has got low priority. Okay, is that clear, Elijah? So anyone else has any other question? Yeah, thank you, Elijah. Okay, so I hope you are clear. So as I said, so if you notice here, the first placement I put a small okay, so tick, it's not highly recommended. So second place also it is, if you, I think I want to put it as this is very small, this is very low priority. Okay, this is like higher priority. So compared to the first one, so first one is you have to use it only in the like as a last resort, using styling an element using the style attribute. So the next is okay, next best is the using the inline style element, but even this is also not recommended. So what is recommended in the third placement, placing in an external file. That's why I put it as a big tick mark and as well as a thumbs up. Means the third placement of CSS styling is the highly recommended way. Let's say if you, for some reason if you are not able to style an element using the third placement, you can go and style using the second placement. Let's say for some reason you are not able to do it even this one as well because some overriding issues, then you can enforce it using this attribute. But there should be definitely this is not recommended because you are mixing the structure and the style in the first placement, though it has got the highest priority. Okay, hope this is clear. So this is also one of the very important the thing which you should keep in mind when you are writing the CSS styles. Is that clear to all of you? Okay, Karthik has answered. Swaifully, yeah. So always try to place styles in the Excel file style sheet. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, before we go to the syntax, let's go and give a demonstration. I think you can see my file here. As you can see here, I have my demo file here. This is a module 3 demo which you are seeing, and I got my CSS style here. Basically, where did I link? I placed it in CSS directory. So I have CSS directory. Inside that I have my style. Okay. So these two files I opened in my so this is the style sheet which I linked using the link attribute here. So note that using link attribute I linked it here. So yeah, let's take a simple example of okay, let me just remove these as well. I'll remove this as well. This is a very simple basically 2 paragraphs. So note that this is I have a head. This is a module 3 demo, and I linked to the external style sheet. That is my head element. I have my body element, so which has got again two elements. First element is a paragraph, second element is also paragraph. Here I have the huge long text which is about 500 plus characters. Okay, let us just see how this gets rendered. I'm copy paste getting the full path of it, and yeah, let me just close all of this. I'm opening it here. Yeah, so this is how it gets styled. So let me just remove the link and see that what are the default styling. Note that now I removed the styling, the link to the external style as well. So now this doesn't. So these two paragraphs doesn't have any style at all. See how they get displayed. So without any style specified, so this is how the paragraph gets displayed. Okay. So let me just style. Now let me link it back. So if I link it back, I'm just put it here. So linking it. So let me just put the default styling. Let's demonstrate one by one. Okay. Yeah. So let me just take width property and then demonstrate it. Because so I want you to understand how to style one by one. So I'll just take one property one by one so that you appreciate it. So now I said width is 80%. Okay. So let me just take yeah. So 80%. So I'm just refreshing it. You see that now basically the paragraph, you can see some white space on the right hand side. What it means is now the 20% of space has been left empty, because I specified that since width of this paragraph is 80%, so paragraph has occupied only the 80% of the window. Note that you can size it, resize it as your window size resizes. Always it occupies only 80% of the window's width. Width here means width of the window. So do you see that? So and let us see. Note that so left hand side there is no margin. Okay, so there is no space. So I want to put some margin. Okay, I can say margin left, and then you observe it. You see here on the left hand side I got 60 pixels of margins. And note that so top there is only this. See what are the spacing what you see at the top between the paragraphs. That is the default spacing which a browser uses if nothing is specified in the styles. But now here I would like to control. Now I would like to say margin top. Here I would say again, let's say 50 pixels. And you notice that okay, the margin at the top has increased. Okay, and similarly it's like the margin left, margin top, there is a margin bottom and margin right as well. So let's say see now that way you have control over the margins on the left hand side, the top, the right side, bottom and the left. So rather than specifying these properties in 4, so the simple shortcut, there is a shortcut notation. So let's say, so when you say just margin 60 pixels, what it means is in all 4 directions, that is top, right, bottom and left, in all directions you want 60 pixels of the spacing. So let me just, you will appreciate better if I remove the width. Let me just remove width. Okay, so let me just remove it, and so this is the default without any styling. So let me add only the margin. When I said 60 pixels, as I said, top, right, bottom, and left, in all the four directions, the 60 pixels of spacing is applied. You see now it's equal spacing in all four directions. So that is margin. Okay, so if let's say, so what it means is, so this can be this is equivalent to this. So the previous declaration is shortcut for this. So rather than repeating 60 pixels 4 times, so this is a shortcut notation. Okay, let us say, see, if you want to give the equal spacing of 60 pixels in all four directions, then you can give that. Let us see if you want to give different. Then, so the first one I said, this is the, so here this is from top, this is bottom, sorry, this is right, and this is bottom, and this is left. So in the top direction, how many pixels you want? So you should specify from top. Let's say I want only 10 pixels. On the right side, let us say I want 20 pixels, or let's say 30 pixels. On the bottom, let's say I want only again 20 pixels. On the left side, I want, let's say I want only, let's say how much? 10, let's say 5 pixels. Okay. So note that now in all four different directions, you want to have different spacing. So I'll remove this. So now you observe that you can see, I'll just remove this. You'll appreciate better. So this is without styling. Now I'll put this styling back. 3 different. So note that this is the top, and this is the right side. So in always in CSS box model, whenever you have to specify something which is in the top in all four directions, and this is always the order in which you have to specify. Top, it's like a clockwise direction from the top. Top, right, bottom, left. Okay, and so this is top, this is right, this is bottom, this is left. So this is very important to understand these things. You see the spacing. So if you want to increase, let's say 20, this is 40, and this is 60, and this is 70. You see, it will be very, very clear. So that is now you have the different spacing in all four different directions. This is about the margin. Okay, and yeah. Yeah, I think for other stylings we'll basically as and when we discuss about it. Let me just let's get back to the slides. So as you have noticed, so CSS styling has got a syntax. Okay, and each what you see here, so between the curly braces, so that is called one CSS rule or CSS declaration. So one CSS rule will have one or more selectors. When I said selector, here I mean this is a selector. P is a selector here. So note that for simplicity I just given only one selector, but you can give more than one selector as well here. Let's say on multiple elements you want to give the styling, like for example, so you want to give the same spacing both on paragraphs and as well as heading 1 as well as heading 2 and then 3. So you can give even multiple selectors here, like paragraph, heading 1, 2, 3, so like this. Okay, so that's what I mean, the more than one selector you can specify for one. What it means is here the same margin, the styling is applied on all these 4 elements. So this is a more efficient way of specifying the style. If you know that okay, there is some commonality between different styles, so to reduce the file size of your CSS, you can so any common properties you can just comment out and then put them on all these, put these selectors on which it should be applied. So what is in the curly brace between this curly brace and this curly brace and curly brace? So that is called a declaration block. So this declaration block will contain a properties, or you can call them attribute as well. So here this is font family is an attribute, and Arial is the value of this attribute or value of the property. So like even font size and color, all these are properties, and these are the values. Note that in place of values, you can have some numerics, or you can have some floating point number, or you can have just some keywords like this Arial or blue, black, green, that those keywords for colors. And you can have a mix of both, like this is units, so this is not units, this is a quantity, like how many pixels, and then units. So it could be like px for pixels, em for m size, and percentage, all those units. So note that in place of value, you can specify the multiple values in, like you have seen here. For margin, I specified multiple values. So sometimes they'll be separated by white space, the blank space, or sometimes it will be like a comma. And sometimes it could be slash as well. So it depends. So whenever you want to know how to specify the multiple values, you should always refer back to the CSS reference, and then see what is the correct syntax. If you specify wrong syntax, then the browsers, for a better user experience, they won't throw errors to the end users, because end users are not interested in seeing the errors. So whenever there is any syntax errors, if something is not applicable on any property is not applicable in a particular element, then browsers will keep quiet. Silently, they just go on whatever the best they could do. So they render the page that way. So you as a web programmer might be wondering, okay, I specified the style, but why didn't it work? So then that is a time when you have to go back and then see whether you specified the style name properly and style values properly, and so on. Then you should also see whether that property is applicable for what are the element on which you are specifying, and so on. So if you specify all these things correctly, then 100% of the time, most of the times, it should work. As I said, you should take Google Chrome browser as a reference. Even Firefox is also reasonably good, Firefox and Opera browser. But if the other browsers like Internet Explorer and Apple Safari browser on Windows platform, I haven't checked it on Macintosh platform because I don't have the Macintosh. So at least on Windows platform, the Apple Safari browser, the support for most of the HTML and CSS properties is not as good as Google. So you have to take the Google Chrome as the reference. Okay. So do you have any questions here? Amna has replied, she's no questions. Okay. So as I said, if the style is not working, please make sure that the property name and the syntax and syntax of the values and also elements on which you are applying, so whether all of them are correct. Okay. So yeah, so this is a bit of the theory. So just I'll briefly cover. Note that these element tag names H1, P, and label, these are the element tag names. Those are case insensitive. What I mean is, here P you can specify as the uppercase or lowercase, but still it will work. That's what I mean, case insensitive. So some of the values of the element attributes, values of the elements attributes like ID and class, they're case sensitive. Means uppercase and lowercase matters there in the values. Okay, and yeah, there are some few terms. There's something called document tree. This will cover in the later sections. Just for now, whenever I say child, what it means is the outer element is a parent, the inner HTML element is called a child. So basically, child is basically nested inside the parent. That is the terminology, parent and child. And there's something called sibling. Sibling means both are the same nesting level. To give an example, in this HTML, so here this P element and this P element, they are siblings to each other because they are at the same nesting level. And P element, these two P elements are the children of the body element. Here the body is the parent element and these two P are the child elements. Okay, so hope that's terminology is clear. Because we use this terminology when we are specifying about CSS styling. This is again some description about how the CSS declaration looks like. So I said it's always between the curly braces and its property and values. And note that property name is unique. Means there is only one property name. When I said color as blue, so color can be applicable on paragraphs, headings, on multiple elements, even tables and so on, even lists. So, but the property name is unique, but it can be applicable for multiple HTML elements. And note that here I told you, what are the what could be the value of a property? It could be numerical, hexadecimal, and so on. Okay, it will also have units of measure as well. Fine. So let's go back to another important thing, what is called the CSS box model. So as I mentioned, all the elements of a CSS element. Okay, it's almost 9:17 now, so it's almost 15 minutes past 1 hour, like 1 hour 15 minutes. So would you like to take a break now? So can you answer in the chat window? Do you want a break now, or shall we continue? So yeah, Amna said yes. Elijah said no. I think either way. Okay, let's take a logical break at the end of the module 1. Is that fine? I think. Okay. Is that fine, Amna? We'll just proceed. We'll take the break at end of module 1. Okay, fine. So see, I said, whether it's an inline element or a block element, so both of them follow what is called CSS box model. This is also one of the important things which you should always remember when styling with CSS. So it's a simple model. So basically, as you know, everything what we see on a browser is has got a rectangle shape, right? So basically, all the content, whether image, audio, video, anything, it's basically rendered as a rectangular box. So it applies both for inline and block elements. So when you said a rectangle box, so rectangular as box is defined by the two dimensions. One is the width, which is along the horizontal direction, and the other is height along the vertical direction. And so the dimensions is the one thing, and there are a few other things along this, around this, the rectangle box. There's something called padding. So note that, so there is a border here. So here the width and height indicated using the arrow symbols. So that is the smaller box in which the content gets displayed. And between the content, so border is actually it's the line which gets displayed as the single line. Like you can see here, I can have dotted line here. So that is the border. So similarly, this border you can specify as a solid line, dotted line, or a dashed line, and so on. So that border is actually border of the element. So let's say between the border and the content in which the height and width get the content gets displayed between this height and width dimensions indicated these arrows. Between the border and this content, let us say you want to have some padding, some extra white space, so that it looks it is placed inside the center, then that property, that space, you can control using a property called padding. So padding is a CSS property, and note that even padding is also part of the element. So along after the padding, what you get is the border. Border is what, I mean, you can hide the border if you don't want to have any line. But if you, like for example, in case of tables, so by default tables does not have borders. So if you want to have a specific border with a specific color, then you should explicitly specify the border property on the tables. And once the border is displayed, so let us say you want, since this is a, let's say if you have a border, then after the border also you would like to have some white space. Let's say after that you would like to display something else. Then between the adjacent elements or top elements, bottom elements, you want to have some white space, some breathing space. So that breathing space you can specify using what is called margin property. So think that, I mean, so always from the element, padding, border, margin. Okay, padding, border, margin. So that is the order in which you have to basically go back to the outer, from inner to outer. Note that whenever you display, you define with the background color. So along with this height and width dimensions, background color is applicable for padding as well. And border, it can have a same color or different color depending upon your styling, but the background color of element is not applicable for margin. It is applicable only for the padding. Okay. So let's look at a little more in detail. Yeah, I see some. Karthik has asked a question. Are borders margin visible on HTML? They are not visible on HTML. So it is only invisible property which is there on the element. What you, like for example, I mean, where I note that here I have two paragraph elements. Note that here the border and padding and the margin, they are not visible at all, right? So if you see here, so if you don't specify anything, so this is how it gets displayed. This is what are the little top and the right bottom spacing. What you see, that is the default spacing which browser uses, because the paragraphs should be distinct from each other. That's why there's a default spacing. So you cannot see the border, margin, and visible on HTML because so this is my HTML. So this is my HTML. That's all. So this HTML is not just the content. And I specified only the tags. There's no way we specified in HTML. You cannot see it. Did that answer your question, Karthik? So it's just in CSS. Okay, you can control them. Like for example, let's give one by one. So let me give, like say, border. So border, let's say if you want to know what is the syntax of border, so I always suggest you to go back to this W3 Schools. This is one of the quick and easy and reasonably exhaustive website for any web development work. Like for example, here you can go to CSS, click on CSS, and go down. There's something called, yeah, you can see, go down. There's something called CSS reference. Click on that. So here, the left-hand side, you will see all CSS properties. Now, what I'm interested in border property. I want to display the border. So scroll down. These are alphabetically ordered. So there's something called border. At least you should remember what property you would like to style it. So here I have border. So I click on that. Here I see it. So this is the syntax. So border, you need to specify what should be the thickness of the line. That is 5 pixels. And what is the whether you want a solid or a dash. You can see what are the different values that are possible. Like for example, border style. You can just click there. you can see what are the different values possible. It's here defined. So this is like say dotted, solid, double, dash, and so on. So these are different values that is possible on the style. So it's you can see even more details here, insert and other things. So let me just go back here. So that is a different style. What is the style you should be used, like dotted, dashed, double lines, or so on. And then what is the color of it? So I'll just copy paste the same thing. Okay. So for just simplicity, since I don't have H1, H2, I'll just remove them. Okay. So this is what I specified. Let's go back and render it. You see here. Now the border. Note that between this text and then the border. So that is too thick. Let me just reduce to 1 pixel. Okay. So that 1 pixel. So note that between the text and then border, there's no space. So it doesn't look good. So you want to give what is it called? So can you tell me what is the property which I should use between to give the space between the content and the border? So can you type in the style? Just now it did. Yeah. Amna has replied, Saifali, great. I think all of you got it right. Excellent. Yeah. So I should use what is called padding. Padding. Note that for simplicity reason, I want to just give only one equal spacing in all 4 directions. So let's say 10 pixels. Okay. You see here. So you can see 10 pixels is not much. If you want to increase it, so you can increase it to 20 pixels just to see so that you can up. So that is the 20 pixels. You can see that's in all 4 directions. As I said, you can use the shortcut notation or the individual property like padding left, padding right, padding bottom, and so on. So basically this is, as I said, this is a shortcut for, so this one. So this is a shortcut notation. And this is a shortcut for even, as I said, padding left. Okay. You can give it like this. So only thing is, if you give padding left, padding right, padding bottom, so basically your CSS declaration will be lengthy. So as far as possible, you have to keep it as minimum possible, unless you want to have different paddings in 4 directions. Okay. So now we got the padding. So let's have equal padding. So we use the border as well. And there's something called margin. Okay. Note that margin is let me just specify something like say background, and let's say background, what do you want to have? Let's say blue. Let's see how it is displayed. You see here, you can now clearly see the background includes the text portion and as well as the padding portion, but not the border. Border is still red. And what is outside, that is the margin. Let us increase the margin. So I'll increase the margin to, let's say 30 pixels. Okay. Note that margin is the outside the element. You can see now what are the space outside this red outline. You can see there space will increase. You see, that is the margin. So that's how now you can style it. I'll repeat the background. When I said background of element, it includes the text portion and the padding as well. So is that clear? So you can type in the chat window. Okay, Amna has replied, Elijah has replied, Karthik has replied. Yes, great. So that's about the styling. Fine. Let's go back to our slides. And yeah, so we did talk about padding, border, and margin. And let's go back about width as well. Let's go and change the width. So yeah, one more important thing which is not explicitly said. One of the good practice, best practice of writing the CSS style sheet is that, so note that all these properties. So initially I have border, padding, background, and margin. Note that, let's say if you have a long CSS declaration, then let's say if you want to change a particular property, then you have to keep searching in this CSS declaration, which will be which might be very time consuming, and it might even stress your mind. So therefore, whenever you are declaring the styles, you always put these styles in the alphabetical order. So that's how you know that, whenever you want to know, let's say you want to, let's say, border property, you know that, okay, where to look for, whether to look for in the beginning or middle or end of the CSS declaration list. So that way it will be easy for you to like to go and modify it and search for it, rather than reading through all the lists. Like for example, so margin should come before. So now all these properties are alphabetically ordered. So this is one of the good practice best, which I would recommend to follow it. Always put these using a small indentation, one level indentation, so that it looks good. So note that all the properties are in the alphabetical order. So now see, note that wherever you place in the declaration, it does not matter. But only thing is, so you should be careful not to repeat the styling. Another advantage of putting all these alphabetical orders is that in case if you repeat something like this, for example, margin you define them like this, and again here you define margin which is, let's say, 40 pixels now. Since the same margin property has been repeated, and because of what you call property of cascading, only the last one takes effect, not the first one. So basically this 30 pixels will be overridden by 40 pixels. So let's say if you in a long declaration, if you have such repetition, then it will be tough to recognize. It will basically take some time. But if you follow this alphabetical sorting of these properties, you can catch them easily. Okay. And I was talking about width. So width, I'll put it at the end. Note that while giving the demonstration, I might be following this alphabetical order convention, but when you actually write it, you should follow it. So now I want to say 100 pixels. So here I would like the content to be displayed in the 100 pixels only, the width. Let us see how it gets displayed. Note that, so that is 100 pixels. Now you see, it is looks like just one column. So this is a paragraph display. Means the width of it is, so let me just see. Yeah. Okay. Let me give something called, there is a ruler plugin. Page CSS ruler. Okay. So basically using this ruler, you can measure how many pixels are there on the browser. Let me just, this is one of the important tool which you can use when you are using the development. Okay, this is another plugin. So let me just go back and see. So I had it in the before. Ruler. Yeah. So edge ruler, accurate ruler. So this has been added. So I think I have it, but for some reason it's not able to show it. How do I get the plugins? Okay, probably I'll check it later. I'll just add this page ruler. Let me see if it works. You just go and search for that. Go to Google add-ins, plugin add-ins. So yeah, I want to add it. So it got added. Okay, for some reason it's not working. So let me not spend time on it. Let me just get it working and I'll show it demos later. Yeah, the width of this is 100 pixels. So let me just go back and change it to, let's say, yeah, let's say 700 pixels. So that is the 700 pixels. Note that, so when you absolutely specify like this, so depending on your page size, there's a lot of white space. So to avoid the white space, so you can, instead of specifying in terms of pixels, you can say just 100%. So irrespective of what is the size of the window, it always basically makes the full 100%. Basically, actually speaking, I mean, you should not display scroll bar like this. So this is the error. This is not a correct implementation. So when I said 100% means whatever is it should calculate the width of the window and it should show only within that page. This is a bug in Chrome. It's not correct style. Okay. Yeah, so if you have such stable synchronization, probably you have to go back and then so you can just display something like 90%, and then you should just even get it working like this. Okay, so now when you resize the window, still see it is showing the pixels. So sorry, the scroll should not be displayed. That's not the proper implementation. So it should be, yeah. So it's not correct. Yeah, since when they are implementing, there might be some bugs. So that is about the width. Similarly, you can use height as well. Okay. Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? For some reason, when the audio connection was lost. So can you hear me now? Eliza is able to hear. Karthik is able to hear. James is able to hear. Okay. Fine. Yeah. So here you can see in the left hand when you said padding in the right hand side. So that's what I displayed here, 10 pixels and 10 pixels here. So since border is specified as 1 pixel, note that this is a very magnified version of the image. That's why even so this border looks very thick, but so that's just say 1 pixel. But I mean actual 1 pixel is very, very thin. And I have a margin of 25 pixels. That 25 pixels, it is on the left hand side 25 pixels and right hand side 25 pixels. Note that from this dashed line on the left side to the dashed line on the right side, if you calculate the total dimensions, it is 25 plus 1 plus 10 plus 100 plus 10 plus this 1 plus this 25. So that is like 25 plus 10, 35 plus 36. 36 multiplied by this side of 36, this side 36, that is 72. 72 plus this width 100 pixels, that is 172 pixels is what is the actual width that is occupied along the width direction by this element. Similarly, you can calculate even what is the actual dimensions occupied along the height direction. So is that clear? What is the actual so see, you may have to do these calculations whenever you want to place it, the elements inside the page using the absolute dimensions using pixels. Is that clear? How to calculate the dimensions along the width and horizontal directions. Yeah. So are you able to hear me now? Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Yeah, so that is the end of the module 1. Let us take just 5-minute break now. We are already in 9:45, halfway through the class. We'll get back in another 5 minutes. Is that okay? We'll exactly start at 9:46. Okay. Until then, I'll mute myself. I am back. Can you hear me? So James, can you hear me? Elijah, can you hear me? Saif Ali. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Rohan. I think all of you are able to hear me. Great. Yeah. So in this module, we'll have a deeper look into the CSS selectors. I mean, how to specify the CSS selectors, and there are some advanced CSS selectors which are called pseudo classes and pseudo elements. So I mean, the difference between pseudo classes and pseudo elements is that pseudo classes basically describe based on some property of the element or some state of the element. If you want to select the HTML elements, then you use the pseudo classes. But the element some properties of the element itself, like which is a part of the element, like say the first character, last character, before and after the element. So these are basically the pseudo element selectors, which we'll see. Basically, as I said, the difference is pseudo element is like they're part of the element, but they're related to the element. Whereas pseudo classes, they basically capture the state of the element. That's the difference. Yeah. So let us look at the simple selectors. So there is let's say if you want to select everything on the HTML element, HTML document, like all the elements, then so there is a universal selector which is called star. So the star is like any element, so it gets selected. So that styling will be applicable for all the styles. Like for example, if you give star font family Arial, means for everything on the HTML page. So that is you want the font to be Arial font. So this is same as like HTML specifying HTML selector or specifying the body selector. So just like this is for the completeness sake, they have this universal selector. And the next, so no, it's very rarely you use this universal selector, but most of the times you will be using this tag selector, which is the next one. So here the T is just a placeholder. T is not a very, it's not a standard, what do you call the selector. It's just like T is like type. So any element type can be here. So element type here, the tag name. So like tag name is like H1, H2, H3, and P is for paragraph, and UL for unordered list, and so on. So any of those, the tag names can be put in place of this capital T here. So sorry, in here. So example is here this is A for anchor. So for all the anchors, you want the text to be shown in blue, then this is how you display it. So note that when you declare this CSS declaration, if you have only one tag, only for that element, that style will be applicable. Let's say if you want to give the same styling on more than one element, the same styling, then you have to use what is called grouped selector. So grouped selector, you have to specify here T1, T2 stands for, again they are the placeholder for the element tag names like H1, H2, P and UL and so on. So basically those tag names you have to separate it by using a comma. Okay. So means here let's say H1, H2 means here the color, text color green is applied on head 1's element and heading 2 element both. So that is a grouped selector. This is also one of the most frequently used selectors, the group selector, whenever you want to specify the same font, same styling on the multiple elements. So as I said before, so if there is some common style between the styles, then you should always group them using the grouped selector. There is another selector called descendant selector. So this selector will match only the T2 element. Note that here this style color green is applied to both on T1 and T2. Tag 1 and tag 2 means in this case H1 element and H2 element both on both of them. Whereas in the descendant selector it is applied only to the T2, the last one. So but here then what is the purpose of T1 and T2 here. So here this descendant selector specifies that select T2 only if it is a descendant of T1. Means basically if T1 is a parent of T2, it could be a direct parent or it could be grandparent. Basically descendant means it could be anything down. So basically T2 element should be nested inside T1 element. Then you can say T2 is a descendant of T1. In such a case, only such elements will get selected, and on that element T2 tag 2, in this case you have paragraph element, within that you have some EM tag. So this color red is applied only onto the EM tag, which is got nested inside a P tag. Let's say there's a some EM tag which is not nested inside a P tag. Let's say it's nested inside a table tag. So then that will not be selected. So is it clear? The group selector and descendant selector. So you can type in the chat window. Sorry. Yeah. Is it back now? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So I was saying, so let me demonstrate this property of descendant selector using an example. So let me say I want to say here EM. So let's use EM itself. EM. So EM basically it's an emphasize. Or let's use the span. I mean EM is span is better. Span. So note that I marked ECMAScript using the span tag. Okay. Span is basically it's a span of text which you can mark up. And there's a thing called. So here I have span. Let us see how it gets displayed in the browser. So let me remove the background as well. Background, yeah, background will remove it. Okay. So now you see that okay, ECMAScript is displayed here, the top, and ECMAScript is there inside here. So now I would like to style this span element. Okay. So span element, the way I can style it is, so I'll say span. Note that this one I'm using the tag selector. I can say color is equal to, let's say blue. Let's see it. You see here, this ECMAScript is now, both of them are displayed in blue color because both of them are inside the span tag. So here this is the span tag and this is also span tag. So here my intention is, so I want to display the blue color only that is the inside the paragraph tag, not the one which is outside. So how do I select it? Note that here span tag is a child element of this parent tag. Means span is enclosed within parent. So or you can say alternatively, span is a descendant of P tag. So here I can specify that. So P. So here span is a descendant of P. Only then you apply color blue. Otherwise don't. Let us see. You see here, only this ECMAScript has been displayed in blue color, whereas the span which doesn't have the P paragraph as its parent, so that will not get selected and style is not applied to that. Is it clear now? What is the descendant? Rohan? Is that clear, Rohan? Okay, great. So that's what is the descendant. I said, yeah, Karthik has another question. Can the tags have any names or only be the keywords? You mean, what do you mean by tag? Tag, you mean the P tag and the span tag? If you mean that, yeah, those names are standard. They are defined as per the HTML standard, right? Yeah, just for your information. So this is the URL. You don't have to note down. So this I already mentioned in the what do you call the slides in the reference section for the reading. So this is the W3 Consortium official website. So TR stands for technical report and then HTML5. So this is official standard for HTML5 standard. Note that this recommendation has been accepted on 28th October 2014, just few months ago. Okay, so inside this, so you will see it's a big HTML page. Here you can see all the elements which are as per the standard. So whatever you see in the red color here, yeah. So link, title, head, and these are all these are the standard tag names. You have to use only these tag names. Only then browser will be able to interpret them correctly. If you use some other tag names, then it doesn't have any meaning as per the HTML standard. So browser will not render it properly. Okay, and it has to be one of these. Like for example, you can see here span is there. Yeah, span element is there. So you have to use only these element tag names when you're styling it. So Elijah did that answer your question, Karthik? So it has to be as per the standard. Only standard tag names you can use it, not anything else. So you can have your own tag names in case of XML. Extensible markup language, you can have your own tag names. But in HTML, so you have to use the standard tag names only. And Elijah has a question. So to pick only the first span tag, you would use the body span? Yes. Yeah, let's go back. That's a good question. Note that here, this span tag has been, what is the parent of this span tag? So its parent is body. So note that then you can say, if you want to give only that one, so then you say body and then span. And then, so let's say you want to display this as color as, let's say, what color you want. So I can think of multiple colors. So yellow. Yellow, can you see it? I think you should be able to see. I can think of only a red, blue, green. Let's say red only. See, because it's clearly visible. You see here? Oh, sorry, both are red. Let's use green or blue. So body span. You see here? Both are now blue. So you see the now difference. Okay, because here this span. So do you see? Okay. Oh, what did I do? See now for P span I defined as red. For body span, see, this is the default one. Okay. Now I'll add this. Okay. Now for body span I want blue. For the P span I want red. Okay. But note both of them are blue. So the reason, because here this span, the body. So we just go back. So go back and then see. Note that this span has got the grandparent body. So this span has got the body as the parent. Note that for both of these spans. So body is a parent. It could be, so for the first one it's a parent, for the second one it is a grandparent. That's why when you said descendant means, it could be just a child, or it should be a grandchild, or it could be any even great grandchild as well. So therefore, to make it distinct, there is another selector which we'll talk about later in the next slide. So you got the point, right? What I'm trying to say. So the blue color, or let's change it to green color. Note that both of them will change to green. Why? Because both of these have got the body as the parent. Therefore, so both of them will get selected, and only the green is applied, and this is not applied. Is it clear now why I'm saying green color is applied? This style is applied, whereas this style is not applied. Is it clear? So you can type in the chat window. Okay, so basically, so if you want to distinguish, then you have to use a different selector. So that selector is called immediate descendant. So there's something called child selector. So you have to use the child selector to distinguish between a child and a grandchild. So yeah, Amna has a question: what if we place a P span after body span? P span after the body span. I think that's what we. P span is there. I didn't get what you were trying to say, because anyway P span is there, I mean, inside the body. So what's your question? Can you put it more clearly, Amna? Yeah, Elijah has a question. Change the border of the styles being declared. Change the order. Order, I mean, okay, fine. So, okay, you want to put it here. Okay, let me change the order. So I put order in this way. Let's see. I haven't tried it. Let me just see. See, yeah. So note that, yeah, now it's changed. Yeah, this is one way you can solve the problem. So now you see that, okay, P span is red, now body span is green. So this is because initially green is applied on both of them, but later since P span has overridden, okay, and it is since this color and this color has been repeated, so this takes a precedence over this precedence. So this is where you can see that's cascading in effect. Yeah, got it? Yeah, thanks Elijah for pointing it out. So now you can see by just changing the order, you can see that again style is taking effect. Yeah, you can do this way as well, but there's another more irrespective of. Note that here the placement of the style, whether it's before or after, is changing the style. Yeah, this is one way to solve the problem, but the more elegant way to make it independent of the where it is placed inside the style sheet, there is another mechanism. So that mechanism is called this child selector. Basically here it means that so T2 has to be a child of tag 1. So in this case, so here we know that, okay, the P span is a child of P. So what is that operator? Operator is this is a greater than symbol. So that's what I use it here. Okay, I'll put it back. Okay, so I'll just so that I want to demonstrate that. Now you see that both of them are green. Now I want to use this selector, the child selector, and let me see. So child selector is not working. Let me. Should I remove the space? No. And yeah, I think it's a general sibling selector. I think it should work. I don't know why it is not working. Yeah, Amna said, I think you should put child selector in the body span tag. Actually, body span tag, see, it is not a child. See, for no, I wanted to apply only for the span which is a direct child of P. So here, I think it gets overridden. Yeah, I think. See, yeah. So here you are selecting it, but still, yeah. So it's getting selected, but what is happening is that so body span also gets selected and it gets overridden. Yes, that's what is happening. Yes, Saifali, you are right. Yeah, it is basically since you select it, but it gets overridden by this color green. So here, even this is not helpful. So first we select P span red and then only change. Yeah, correct. So, yeah, so basically you are selecting it correctly, it's getting applied, but later it gets overdone because this is also. So here also, if let us see like this, let us see what happens. Yeah, now you see the in effect. So did you notice? So here I clearly specified. So this, the first one gets selected only if span is a direct child of P, and the second style is applied only if span is a direct child of body. So that way now you have this selection and this selection. Sorry, the set of HTML elements get selected by this tag, and set of elements get selected by this tag. Now they are distinct. There is no overlap of elements. That's the reason why you can see in two different colors. You see now it's green and this in red. So now, see, since you selected it, now it does the placement of. Now see, I moved it, but I refresh it. Still, it doesn't matter. Now, see, earlier placement of this styles mattered, whether you put the before or after. Now, since I specified the selectors so that both of them have got the distinct elements. That's why now you can see distinct colors. So here now, since I specified this greater than symbol here, which is a direct selector, now order doesn't matter. Does that answer your question, Saif Ali? Yeah. So now, so if you don't specify this greater than, then order matters. But so you should not, ideally speaking, you should not depend on this ordering of the styles, because if you depend on the order, only as a last option you should depend on the order. Okay. But if you depend on it, you have to be very careful where you put it, because if you put it in the wrong place or before or after, then your style will not be even applicable. Then you have to break head to get it right, to get it working. Okay, you have to be careful. Sometimes these styling of these elements, once your CSS styling and the elements gets complicated, then it becomes very tough. It's tough to debug. So is that clear? Therefore, whenever you specify the selector, select it such a way that, okay, if you are selecting a set of elements, be sure that, okay, yes, that's what you wanted. If there is an overlap like this before and the overlap of CSS attributes, then you have to break your head to get it working, and it needs it really consumes your time debugging it and to fix it. And let me just go through the questions. Yeah, Elijah said, I think the body span is treating it as all span tags, body span overriding, so we color the spin the immediate child. Yeah, I think now it is clear, right? How this child selector works. Okay, so can you type in the chat window that whether you understood this child selector and why the ordering will not matter once you use the child selector. Okay, great. Saif Ali, Amna, Karthik and Eliza replied. Okay, great. So that is the child selector. Note that so the descendant could be any descendant. Child is the immediate child. So there's something called adjacent sibling selector. That sibling selector is the plus character. So here adjacent means just at the same level, whereas the general sibling means it could be anywhere in the what do you call the hierarchy. So I would suggest you to play with this. You can have some unordered list, and you can nest one inside the other, and you can play with this adjacent sibling selector and general sibling selector if the time permits. So I'll come back to that later. So I would suggest you to play with it. Okay, is that fine? So can I move to the next slide? Okay. Just you need to play it with it. Once you play with it, you'll understand. Like I did it in front of you. So see, note that CSS is a huge subject by itself, and unless you keep experimenting with it, you'll not learn and master it. Yeah. So let's come back to another important the selector, which is called an ID selector and class selector. So ID selector, so basically here the ID name, whatever you see in pink color, so that is the value what you specify as the value for the ID attribute. Similarly here class name is the name of the class at value what you specify for the class attribute inside the tag. Note that this ID and class is one of the these are the core attributes, and you can specify on almost all the HTML elements, irrespective whether it's a table, unordered list, paragraph, heading 1, heading 2, anything. Almost most of them, I would say almost all of them, you can specify these core attributes. Means you can define this ID and the class names on almost all of them. Only one difference between this ID and class is that okay, ID value should be only 1, whereas the class values can be more than 1. That is the only difference. And the class name, same class name can appear more than one element, whereas ID value should appear only one element. Let's go back to the code. Let me just move that inside comments. So note that here you might be seeing this slash and then star. So that is the comments inside. So that is the starting. The end is this one. End is this character star followed by slash. This is the C or C++ style block comments. The same comments are used inside commenting the CSS. Okay. Note that there's no line comments inside CSS. It's only block comments. That is slash star and star slash. Let's go back to the code. Note that here I would like to define ID. I'll remove this span here. So note that here this is the ID attribute which I was mentioning. So ID equal to, note that I just given as is. So this also works, but ideally speaking you should put in quotes. So just I will, for demonstration purpose, I'm not putting them inside quotes. Actually speaking, you should put like this within double quotes. You can put in single quotes as well, but double quotes is recommended. You have to put it like this. Okay. So for one I'll put it, for another I'll not put it, just for demonstration purpose. Okay. Note that on paragraph 1 I have para 1 as a ID value and para 2 as the for the second paragraph. So now I would like to style for these paragraphs separately. So this is where I want to style it separately. So here this is a generic styling which I'll move inside the comments so that it doesn't get applied. So now I want to make sure that okay, only these styles are getting applied. So again these two are relative. So here I can just, I want to comment it for the time being. So that's why I'll put in this comment like this. Okay. And this one also I'll put. So so you can comment the particular properties like this. So let's so here note that I have so even this also I think, let me just demonstrate one by one. So note that para 1 I want it to be blue and para 2 I want it in yellow. Okay, let's go back. Refresh. You see that? Now para 1 is in blue, para 2 is in yellow. Because those elements got selected uniquely because, so here I use the ID. So this is the para 1. This para 1 is same as this para 1 and this para 2 should be same as para 2. The way to tell in CSS that okay, it is an ID name, ID value is that you should put hash symbol, this one. Then it will match against the, this is the ID selector, it's called whole thing. It will look for that element which has got that ID value. Okay. Let us say now you want to, I want to add a class. Let me remove this. And let me put this again, say class is equal to para. And this also class is equal to para. So let me remove this. Okay, and then now you will say this is, I'll have that para one as well. So now I have para, and then I have color property, color. Let's say I want a green. Note that this para should be same as this para here. So this para is specified as a class attribute. So how do you specify that? Okay, it has to match the class you have to specify using. So if you go back to the slides, so this dot. So you have to go and put in the style. So you put dot there. Okay. Now just go back and see that. See, the first one is in green now. Okay. Is that clear? How to use? Yeah, that's how you can use it. Now, for example, so the same para you can define like this. So you can have both ID and para as well. Class is equal to para. So in refresh it, note that style has not changed. You know the reason why? Because within ID and class, basically the class, there's something called the weight. So class has got lesser weight compared to ID. So whenever I think in the later modules I'll be talking about the CSS specificity. There's something called CSS specificity. So in that specificity, basically you can calculate which of the CSS styles will win over the other styles if there is a clash. So that is basically determined by what is called specificity algorithm. So it's a very simple algorithm, just like weightage. So basically, just to put it in simple, class has got, let us say, weightage of 10 points, whereas the ID has got the weightage of 100 points. Since with respect to the weightage, 100 points is more than 10 points, so that gets applied when there is a clash. So let's see now, if you remove this, let's say ID, now you can see, now both of them are green. Because so both have got the class para. So note that so this is I have another paragraph. Okay. So which doesn't let's say any class attribute. So it doesn't have any attribute. So this is a third paragraph. You see the third paragraph in black color. Because so this style para color green is applied only to since you are selecting using class names, only the first two elements will get selected, and only the green color is applied only for the first two, and the last one doesn't have any class, and for that default style, which is the black color, is applied on that element. Is that clear? Because most of the time you will be styling the elements using the ID and class attributes. Yeah. Only difference is, I said previously when I used para 1, para 2 for ID values, so the values para 1, para 2 have to be distinct within that HTML page. So whereas here, in case of class, you can have the more than one. So another thing is, like for example, you can have, let's say, since this is the first para, so first para. So the only first para alone, let's say you want to have a different color. So first para, I want to select this. Let us say here I want what do I want? So what left? Let's say margin left. So I want margin left of, let's say, 10 pixels, or let's say 20 pixels. Only for the first para I want the margin left to be 20 pixels, whereas for other paragraphs I don't want any margin. Let's say for the let's see that. You see here, first para alone has got the margin of, let's say, to increase it, let's say 40 pixels. You can see that. You see that first para alone has got the margin, because that's how I see, note that here I specify two classes, first para class and para class. Here So para class and first para class, both of them I specified. Now both the styles. So note that para is a class name, first para is a class name. So the style defined in those two class names will get applied. Here let us change the order. And you can see it now. So it doesn't matter. So but if you specify, let's say color as green, here color as red. Okay. Now you see what takes priority. See it. So first para color, because that's what I'm gonna applies first. Let's move to the later. So I just moved, flipped the class names, and let's see what is the behavior. See, so it does not matter now. So whether you put it the first or last inside this class values, it does not matter. Okay, but only it matters here, because here, so the first para, here the color and this color, it gets overridden. This is because of cascading. So is that clear? Okay. I think yeah, Rohan, Karthik and Saiful, they replied. So yeah, that's all about ID and class selectors. That's all. So note that even the style sheet also, let's say here in the paragraph. So you can have one more declaration, but as long as you don't override the properties, it's, as I said, so it need not be that okay you have to declare all the style properties only in one declaration. You can have one declaration like this, one declaration like this as well. So let me here change it to, let's say, margin left, let's say 70 pixels. So yeah, know that. So this one is taking effect, and even this one is also taking effect. So note that why even both first para, second para, they have got same alignment, because here I defined margin left, which is 40 pixels, and which got overridden by this one. So like that, within the style sheet, you can have more than one declaration block for the same selector. Only thing is, whatever the last, that takes the overriding priority on the other stuff. If there is a clash, if there is no clash, whatever is the previous one, that takes effect. Yeah. Any questions about this ID selector? What have we discussed until now? I would like to take questions here. Because these concepts are, once you are clear about these concepts, I think everything else is straightforward. It's quite easy. Very important that. So I want to make sure that you understand these concepts clearly. Okay, fine. There are no questions. So similarly, I'll just give only one example for this. Like for example, so these are called attribute selectors. So see here, when you said attribute, here means any attribute that will appear in the start tag. So note that here class is an attribute. Here also this is attribute. Anything, any valid attribute that goes inside this start tag of any element is called an attribute. So based on some presence of some attribute, so you can again select the elements. So here simple case. Here let's say I have what do you say? Yeah. So one thing is so you can define the para. So this way, and let's say same thing I can define something like P. Okay, and then attribute. So what is the attribute I have? I have class. So note that here P is the element. Here that's a T. T stands for tag name, and then attribute is name of the attribute. So let us see same thing works or not. See, both of them are green. Okay. So now this is not applicable, because so see, compared to, note that even though this is a P, this tag name and then attribute is there before, and there is an overlap of attribute color here green, color red here, but this is not taking effect, whereas this has taken effect. That is because of CSS specificity value. Specificity value when you compute for this class and this one, so this one has got a higher value. That's the reason why this style is applied. So, and to put it in another way, so compared to this class name selection, so here you are specifying more details, like you are specifying the tag name and also attribute name. So with respect to the specificity, means how specific you are in making this selection of the elements. So this is much more specific compared to this one. Line 16 is more specific compared to line 20. That's the reason why this is taking effect. If you see here, this will change it to, I'll change it to blue, and even though it is there before and then there is a clash of attributes, still that takes effect. You see both of them. That is because of the, when you calculate the specificity value, that is higher. So there is a, so here note that here what you specify is just the attribute name, irrespective of value of this attribute. So you want to select it. If you want to give the value also, then you have to give that value as like this, para. So note that para is there on this and para is there on this, both of them. Therefore, it will be applicable on both of them. So note that, so now the styling is differed. Okay. So that is because when you calculate the weightages, then weightage will differ. That's why it will happen. I think so. Little more on we have to calculate the specificity values, then it will be clear. Okay. So basically, this is the class name and this is the value for which it matches. So that is the second exact attribute value selector. Means you are specifying exact value of that attribute in this format. This is a tag name. This is an attribute name equal to, and then the value you can give. Note that when you are specifying the value, okay, so you have to give the full attribute value. That's why it's called exact value. So when you want to partially match it, so then you have to give this operator. So like for example, you want to give like this tilde, and then say for some reason, let's say, yeah. So I'll say here, so I'll say here para 1 and para 2. Note that both in para 1 and para 2, the prefix is para, right? This prefix, partial prefix of the value. So now you want to specify that partial prefix. So that's what is this partial attribute value selector. You are here what this value can be a partial value of this attribute. So that is tilde character. And you can see that. So again, that is because again specificity values. Okay. So let me just go back and then put it at the down, so that okay, I'll just I'll get back to you on this. I'll check it why it is not working. So I'll demonstrate it tomorrow. I think I should get something right. Okay. So that's what is the partial value selector. And similarly, this is a hyphenated prefix, and only this is at the beginning. Yeah, let me use this operator. let me see if it works. If it doesn't work, I'll just say it worked. So you have to use here the caret symbol. So that's what it here means for the beginning of the string. So similarly, for a end of the string, if you want something, let's say if you want to match it, then like for example here, so let's same thing, I'll use one para and two para. Note that no para is there at the end. Okay, so now you can give again here the para, but only here the operator you should change. For end is dollar symbol. So go and change. Let's see it. Now it's not applicable. I just change this operator to dollar. See, now it's applied. See, now means now this. So this selects the class, all the elements which have got the class name, the value ending with para. So now here the value is ending with here this para and this para. That's how it gets selected. So this is like much more finer way of selecting the elements based on class attribute values. So similarly, yeah. Let's say this is arbitrary attribute value selector, means now it can be present at anywhere inside the string. So here let's say this is para 1. So XYZ, I'll just add it. XYZ. Here I will go back and change this attribute to in the style. Instead of dollar, I want to, let's say, now so note that so in the style I press I given as dollar means end. So for none of these class names, end is class attribute values does not end with para. So here what they end with XYZ, but there inside they have got something called para, right? So that is you have to use attribute value select, arbitrary attribute value selector, which is star here. You can see star. So let's go back and then change it to star. This dollar I change it to star. Let's see it if it works. Yeah, it worked. Okay. So that's how you can use a different the selectors, attribute value selector, and then these operators. It could be like caret, dollar, or even star to select the any element which has got the attributes. Note that for simplicity here, I given the class itself. So this in place of class, it could be any valid attribute that you specify. So these attribute based selections will be very useful when you want to style the basically input forms, okay, input fields and then the input boxes. When we are demonstrating that, at that time we'll use this more often. Otherwise, for regular what do you call elements, you can use other selectors like tag selectors, ID and class selectors. That will be much more appropriate. So this will be like much finer control where it will be useful because if you remember in the forms, the same input tag is used, but there depending upon the type value. So what are whether it's a radio button checkbox, so it will differ based on only the type value. There you have to use these attribute based selectors. So is that clear? Any questions here? So yeah, as I said, these attribute value selectors will be really useful in the forms, styling of the form elements. Any questions? Anyone? Only Amna replied. No questions. Great. Okay. So yeah, Saif Ali, Karthik, Rohan replied. So no questions. Great. So we'll move on. So yeah, as I said, so you can play with them. And yeah, another thing called there's something called pseudo class selectors. So these pseudo class selectors will be useful. Like for example, you can use :link. So this is a pseudo class selector for selecting all the unvisited links. If you want to select the visited links, visited means whether user has pressed on that link or not. If he has not pressed, that is an unvisited link. If he pressed on that and went to that link and came back, then it becomes a visited link. So if you notice in the browser, the unvisited links, they'll be displayed as blue color. Visited links, they'll display in some other, let's say green color or some other color. So that way you know that which links you already visited, which links you haven't. That way you don't have to go, then later you realize that you already visited that link. So that is a visual cue that is given by the browser. So visited links, let's say the format is like this. Normally all the anchors, you just give an anchor tag. But for this, using pseudo class selectors, you have to give anchor tag and :link. And then rest of it is like the CSS declaration, nothing else. So these pseudo class selector and pseudo element selectors, you will specify only in the selectors portion of the CSS declaration. Similarly, all the links which are visited, you give using the visited here. Okay. And similarly, any element that is active, you give using :active. So this active property will be used basically in case of the form elements, because there in some elements, depending upon some previous value, you can make some element as active or inactive. So that may not. So the active inactiveness you can specify in the tag, in the HTML tag itself. But if it is specified, fine. It will be taken as the active or inactive element in the beginning when the page is loaded. But later, depending on the value of the form what you give, so dynamically in this JavaScript, you can change whether that element is active or inactive. So even when the state of that input element is changed to active to inactive and so on, so this CSS style will be basically applicable. Note that this CSS style will be applicable since you specify only in the CSS style sheet. Only at the load time it will be applicable. If you want to dynamically do it, you have to do it in JavaScript. Okay. Yeah, there's similarly whenever user, like for example, there's a field called the first name, last name, the input fields. So there you can see the field names, and the right hand side you see the the input box. So this will demonstrate when we are talking about the forms. So let's say whenever you click on one input box, so using your mouse cursor like this, so then that element becomes in focus. That's when you can specify like this. So here is an example where I have the input element where the type is text. So this is a attribute selector, and on that you can specify the focus pseudo element selector like this. And that for that you want to change the border to green. And similarly, this is hover selector is for, like say, if you put the cursor on top of that element like this. Now I'm putting this cursor on hover. So here now I'm putting this A. So putting the cursor is called hover. When you put the cursor, then you want to change some styling. That's when you can use this hover class. So this hover class is also one of the free, mostly used, because of depending upon when you user moves the cursor from one element to another element, you want to change, you want to get the user attention. That's when this hover selector is used. Similarly, there is a generic structural pseudo selector which is called root. What it means, this is the root of the element, root of the whole document. So in our document, which is the root of our HTML document? Can you answer in the chat window? What do you mean by root here? Which element of HTML tag? Like see here, so here we have the tags, right? So which of these are roots? Is it head, HTML, head, or body, or P, or which of them are roots? Yeah, Karthik answered correctly. Amna answered correctly. Saif Ali answered correctly. Rohan also answered correctly. Yes, you are right. All of you are correct. Yeah, James also answered correctly. So here the root of this HTML document is HTML. So you can always specify just you can give styling on HTML as a tag selector and it will get selected. So, but you can also give alternatively colon root. Note that so before colon, so this whole thing so this whole thing can be completely missing as well, but still that is still a selector. So that means anything that is in focus, so it will be applicable. So whatever I marked just now, that whole thing can be missing, means you can delete it still like this. So this is also valid declaration, means any element that is in focus, the style is applied. Okay. So as I said, this colon root, like for example here, before a colon, nothing is there. So this is so root hover. So let me just demonstrate this. Okay, I'll just copy paste this. So I'll just let me copy paste this, the whole thing. So I'm pasting this. So as a practice, I mean, let's say if whenever you want to try some style, so as a practice, you put at the bottom of your external CSS style sheet so that you know that okay, you have good chances of that getting applied. Note that I put it here, and then let me go back and then refresh. You see here, when I move the cursor, the background color of the whole window is changing to papaya whip. So now I'm moving out of the visible window and you see that color is changing back again white. Do you see that changing of colors? Because now here I select the whole root. When you hover on it, I want background color too. So let's say light yellow. So I refresh it. So that's the light yellow color. Let's change it to yellow. So now you see the color is changing, light yellow. So now say I said let's replace colon root, okay, with HTML, and then see, refresh it. You get the same effect. You see that? Now I'll change it with same HTML root. So now I'll say blue or blue, black, green. Yeah, let's say it's green. Note that I said HTML hover background green. Refresh it. You see that whole thing is now changing to green when I hover on it. So when I said this HTML means the HTML consists of whole thing. You can even ideally say even body as well. Still light green, blue, pink. So let's change it. Now you see it's changing to pink. So now even because see body element is the one which gets displayed in the browser. So even you can specify even body as well. So is that clear? Okay. So that's how you can use the hover. Note that here colon hover. So let us just remove the body itself. Let's see what happens. So pink, green, what are the other colors? So see, note that color I can always specify like this even as well. So this is a hash. I'll specify 1, 2 and 90 and AB. I'll specify some random color. Let's say 88, 99 and BB. Note that here this 88 star basically it is the red color, 99 is for a green color and BB is for a blue color, RGB. So that we'll discuss later. So you can just see here, refresh it, you see that is a color. Now it's a light blue color. Okay. So note that here I haven't specified anything, means anything that is hovered, now the background will change. That's what it means. If you don't specify anything, it is like anything. Similarly, there is a first child of let's say in the document hierarchy, if you want to apply something to only to the first child, only to the last child, so you can use this colon first child, colon last child as well. Similarly, let's say when something is empty and something is checked. So these two, empty and checked, the pseudo class selectors will be used on the input form, the input boxes. That's when you use it. Similarly, when you want to select the nth child, so nth child you can select, you can specify whether it's a odd child or even child. Here this is the third child. Here you can give an expression like this, 2n plus 1, where n starting from 0, 1, 2, 3. When you specify 0, here let's say 2 into 0, 0 and 1 means 1. And when you specify a substitute value n is equal to 1, 1 into 2, that is 2 plus 1, that is 3. Means first one, third one. When n is equal to 2, it is fifth one. Like that, first, third, fifth element will get selected. So you can always change it to some other expression like this, 3n plus 1. So now every third element will get selected, and so on. Okay. So this nth child property will be generally used in case of list li elements, that list items inside the ordered list, unordered list. Or so if you see here the TR stands for table row. So whenever you're selecting a table row, so then you can use this nth child. So just like nth child, you can like odd, you can even specify in place of odd, you can specify even as well. So then odd or even child will get selected. So this property, pseudo class selector, will be useful whenever you want to display a table and alternate tables. You want to have some background color so that that row is clearly visible. Then you can use this nth child selector. And similarly, nth last child. This is nth child from the bottom. Same as nth child, but this is from the bottom. Yeah. Any questions about this pseudo class selectors until now? Any questions? Okay, no questions. So let's move on to the pseudo element selectors. So note that pseudo element selectors are just like pseudo class selectors, but only thing is here you have, like, say, if you want to select only the first letter or first line or before the element, after the element, okay, you can do some styling. Let me use first letter. Okay, let me remove it over. Let me remove all this. Just for simplicity's sake. Okay. So now here I want to apply for P for all paragraphs the first letter. Okay. I want only the first letter to be having a font size of let's say 70 pixels. Got it? So in paragraph, the first letter alone I want to show it in 70 pixels. Let us see that. See that? Only first letter alone is showing in big text. You can change it to, let's say, the 40 pixels. You can style it. So this is generally, like when you see the newspapers and news articles, generally the first letter is a little bigger compared to other thing. So this is how you can style it. Is that clear? First letter selector. Yeah, and similarly, let's say, yeah, I don't have very good, see this before and after also will be useful in case of forms. Let's say, for example, I don't know, let me, so I think we'll demonstrate this, this is the last, after and before, when you use the forms. I think that then it will be very clear. Okay, so just, but only thing is, see, when you said colon before means, so here, for example, let me, yeah, I can demonstrate it. There's nothing wrong. I'll say P colon before. So I can say content X. ABC, or I'll say ed. Let's see it works or not. You see here, ed is prefixed. Note that my paragraph starts here as, here my paragraph starts here. So ed is prefixed to before the P element, that content, whatever is specified here, that content is inserted before. Similarly, you can give like after, and you see that ed will be at the end. You see here, ed is at the end. Here ed is at the end. You can see here ed is at the end. So do you see that? Here ed. So basically, whatever you want to, here the content element is basically you are inserting that content either before or after that element. That's why you can use this before and after as well. Similarly, first line alone, you want to display different lead. Okay, so let me remove this. Yeah, you can see only first line alone is in big font. Note that text, the first line is defined. You can see here until is, now and is, it's now bold color. So now you see now and is here, because the width, window width has changed. Now the style also has changed. So earlier, because when window is wider, so this is also in bigger font. Now it is in smaller font, because the first line is varies depending upon your window size. See here. Okay, that's how you can style it. Is that clear? Yeah. And yeah, we have to make it a little fast because we are running out of time. Yeah, next when we are starting in module 3.3. So we'll probably slip by 10-15 minutes. Is that okay with all of you? Because initially when I had some, you people had some questions, and I spent time on answering those questions. That's why we are slipping. Is that okay? Amna has replied. I want consensus. I want all of you to reply. I know that some of you have to go for work. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, Amna has replied, Karthik, Saif Ali, James, Chintala, Manoj, Rohan, everything. Yeah, okay, thanks for your permission. Yeah, we are setting this, since that you already got the concepts of CSS styling, I think we can move faster. Yeah, this is a little bit theory, but as far as possible, I'll demonstrate it. So next, see in this module, we'll talk about what are the different units of measure. I think if you recall, from your +2 after in your college, so there's something called units of measure for mass, length, and time. Right. Similarly, in CSS also we have units of measure for different measurements. So we'll talk about that, and we'll also recommend how do we specify the color in CSS, and what are the other CSS properties. So there are multiple units of measure in CSS here. So basically, all these units you specified for the length values. Anything like font size, the width, padding, margin, all those are basically it's a length dimension, right? In mass, length, and time. So this is a length dimension. For all those length dimension, units of measure in CSS is percentages. See here, these are absolute units. IN stands for inch, centimeters, millimeters, points, and this is PC is also another thing. I think it's yeah, PC here it stands for pica. So, and there's another units called it's px. Px is one of the frequently used, stands for pixels. So you can see what is a point means. Point means it's so here there is a text is missing. Sorry about this. 1/24th. 1/24th of an inch. So it's called one point, and 1% is like same as 12 points, and pixels is like 1 pixel. And so these are all the absolute dimensions in inches and centimeters. And m is a relative, basically m is what is the size of m. Here is what is the height of x. So okay, you can read about this more. I mean, I have given some references in the reading, further reading about these units of measure. So you can just go and read about it. So it will be much more clear rather than I explain. It should be straightforward. It's not difficult. Just note that so frequently used will be like yeah, that we'll discuss. Pixels are frequently used, sometimes points, sometimes em, and percentages. So these are the frequently used units of measure. And those units of measure are present in CSS 2.1 as well. But CSS 3 has got additional units of measure. So you can see 3 icon. This is the standard icon for indicating CSS 3. Like HTML5, I have icon for 5. These are the new units of measure in CSS. So REM stands for root m. So the previous m units of measure has got a nesting problem. What it means is, so if you have the nested, like say you have the parent and then child, and again grandchild. So the m is always relative to its parent. And note that if something is specified at the grandchild level, so at the child level it gets what do you call scaled down. At even grandchild level it's scaled down. So this scaling up and down problem is there with respect to m. That problem has been alleviated in case of rem. Rem means always with respect to the root element. So since the root element, it has got a fixed font, and with respect to that everything, basically you have the reference point. With that reference point, you specify all the styles. That's why it remains consistent across the devices. It could be like your desktop, mobile phone, or it could be a tab. It look and feel, and then they get scaled up or scaled down proportionately with when you specify the units in rem. Similarly, there's something called VW and VH. Basically, this is for viewport. Viewport is nothing but whatever, like say, for example, whatever is the white background color, what you see in this browser window, so that is your viewport. Basically, that the rectangle box in which you see the content. So here, this is viewport is bigger. So note that this viewport size will differ depending upon its display device, it's whether a desktop or a tab or it's a smartphone. So depending upon this, since the screen size changes from device to device, so with respect to that device size, you would like to specify your units of measure. So then you use VW and VH. So basically, one VW means is 1% of viewport width, the width along with, and its VH is 1% of the viewport height. So you have 100 points along the width and height direction. So you with respect to that. So basically, you can specify using VW and VH, and it gets proportionately scaled up or scaled down depending on your display screen size. And let's say if you want to, whenever you want to do some calculation, you want to see you want to get the viewport minimum, which is the minimum of viewport height and viewport width. So you can use the Vmin and Vmax. Because depending upon whether it's a portrait, sorry, because when the orientation changes from portrait to landscape, so the view width and your height definition changes. That's when, let's say, depending upon which is the minimum, you want to take some action, which is the maximum. So then you can use Vmin and Vmax units of measure as well. Okay, here is the recommended the units of measure whenever you are defining the styles. Here you can see that the red thumbs down, red hand thumbs down, which is not recommended. You're not. It's highly not recommended to use the units of measure in points, centimeter, because these are all absolute units. So when the absolute units, when if you use, when let's say from the desktop, it might be fine, but when you move to smartphone, where the screen size is smaller, so irrespective of screen size, it will still continue to show in in terms of absolute units. Then your content will not be fully visible. So then it gives a bad user experience. To avoid those problems, you are recommended to use the relative units of measure like m, px. Px is also relatively what do you call? It's a absolute, but still it's acceptable in some cases. But percentage and m is highly recommended units. Note that depending upon whether it's you're doing on a display screen or when you're printing the web page, so this is in case of print you can use M, CM and as well, because I mean, see your print size, your print sheet is more or less the same. You are using an A3 or A4 print sheet, and again you can style the depending on the print sheet size, you can style it differently. There, I mean, since anyway it's a fixed size, you can always use absolute units of measure as well. Okay, so note that so in CSS3 you can have different style sheet for the same element depending upon whether it's getting rendered on a screen or whether it's getting printed on a printer. So there is something called media queries. Using the media queries, you can specify for the print and the screen, and also you can for the different screen sizes as well. Okay. That's about units of measure. And let's come back to the color theory. So note that so in modern days now we have color display devices. Of course, you have some color printers as well nowadays. So if you want to specify something in terms of color, now how do you specify it? For that, you should know little bit of color theory. Basically how you model the colors. So there are different models. Here I can show 4 models. There's something called RGB model. RGB stands for red, green, blue. So in the RGB model, you specify, see that these color values for these RGB, you specify between 0 to 255. That is 8 bits. So from 0 to 255, the decimal values you can specify. You can specify in terms of when you're specifying the hexadecimal, you have to specify from 00. Let me just demonstrate it. So in case of decimal, so it is from 0 to 255 values. So in case of hexadecimal, so the values will be 00 to FF. So note that it can be even lowercase as well. It does not matter. You can specify in FF uppercase or lowercase. And so basically you specify in RGB values. I'll specify like RGB. You can specify like 255, 255, and 255. You specify like this. What it means is red color 255, green color 255, and maximum all of them 100%. So when you have all the colors RGB to put together, then what you get is white color. If you specify all of them as, let's say if you want to specify only blue color, then you make red and green as zeros. Okay, and then you get this R, this is G, this is B, blue. So blue is 255 means you get full blue color. So if you get, let's say, so you can specify some 255 like this. Now it's red is 100, blue is 100%, and green is also 100%. So there's a mix of colors. You can see the right hand side when the green and blue, when they mix, what you get is the cyan color. In the red 100% and green 100%, you get yellow color. Like that, you can get different colors. Note that you can specify even 100 as well, 100 here and 100 here as well. Note that here you have to specify the values in decimal only, but you cannot specify in hexadecimal. So that is the RGB color model. So pictorially, the RGB color model is displayed here, the right hand side. Yeah. So this RGB is for RGB model. So this image is for the RYB model, red, yellow, blue. There are some designers, they came up with the RYB model, but it's not quite popular. At least it's not supported in the CSS. So the RGB model is suitable for cathode ray tube devices, LCDs and LEDs. Mainly it is for the display devices. So in the display device, because you note that in the display device, the colors are additive colors. Basically, you mix the color, you add the colors. Whereas in case of printing, so it is called subtractive colors. Subtractive colors because white light falls on the color, and then it absorbs some some frequencies, light frequencies, and then only reflects. Only, let's say if I see something from the print, red color means the green and blue radiations is absorbed, only red color is reflected back into my eyes. That's why I see it as red. Since some colors are getting subtracted absorbed by the paper, so it is called subtractive color. Whereas in case of display device, you are adding the colors. That's why it's called additive colors. So yeah. So RYB model, so you have the concept called primary, secondary, tertiary colors. You can see here R, which is at the top, and then Y is at the, so 120 degrees yellow, and B is at again 240 degrees in the 360 degrees frame. So those are the primary colors. Between red and yellow, you see orange color. That is called secondary color. Again, between yellow and blue, you see green color. That is also called secondary color. Similarly, let's say between the secondary colors, what you have, like for example here between red and orange, you have red orange, so that is called tertiary colors. Basically, this coloring scheme is used suitable in it was used in teaching art and design that time, but it is not supported in CSS. And there's another model called HSL model, which is supported in CSS, which is called hue, saturation, and lightness. So what it means is, basically the color system, if you see in the right hand side, so it is invented by a person by name Munsell, is an American painter. It is suitable for both displays and printing as well. If you see the 3 dimensions, one is you see one circular, what do you call it, some ring. So along that ring, basically you have 360 degrees, right? So at 0 degree you have red color, at 120 degrees you have green color, and at 240 degrees of this circle you have blue color. And you can basically specify the change of colors along this 0 to 360 degrees in degree system, and you can get a different changing of colors. So that is a one dimension, that is along x dimension. Okay, and so there are another dimension from the root. So basically what you get is the saturation, like how thick the color should be, where it should be, color should be very light at the center or very dark at the outermost. So that you specify between 0% to 100%. That is along this sector, which is like a cake, like a pizza, you cut it, right, as a sector. So that pizza cut piece, that is along that direction you specify saturation. And along the vertical spindle, where you can see at the top white color, at the bottom you see the dark color, so that is lightness. So when you specify 0, so that is dark. So when you are at the top, 100% is lightness, full light. So you can increase or decrease intensity along L, lightness. So that's how you get hue, saturation, and lightness. That's what it's called. Hue is along the circle, saturation is along the sector, this along the distance from the center, and lightness is along the vertical, the spindle direction. So HSL also you can use it. Okay, so that I'll demonstrate a little bit later. There is also something CYK model, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which is also another model which is generally used in printing. But this is not supported in display device, because display device is basically additive colors. Yeah, so these are the different. See, one way of specifying the color is you can use the color names like this. Okay, like these are predefined color names. You can use the text as is, red, green, blue, which you have seen. I've been using these color names frequently just so that you understand what color I meant. And so for final control, you can specify in hexadecimal like this. This is in red specification. This is a green specification. This is a blue specification. As I said here, you can put it in uppercase FF or lowercase ff as well. Basically, these values are from 0 to 255, and you can specify like this. And there's something called alpha, opacity. So this is transparent, fully transparent, and opaque. So this transparency, like you can see here, you can see something at the background at the top. So this is opacity, which is supported in Windows 7. Yeah, earlier one version of the Windows, this opacity wasn't there. So that alpha, that opacity property, you can control using the fourth. So this opacity value is always between 0.0 to 1.0. So that's a floating point number you can specify in that range. So if you want to control only opacity property, you can give, there is a CSS property called opacity, so which is as good as specifying this value. Similarly, here HSL color you can specify the 0. Here 0 means red, and 240 means blue color. And this hue you can specify in terms of percentage, like 100%. And this is lightness. So again, as I said, these two values, what are the values that are in percentage? That is 0% to 100%. Okay. Here I specified this hue is like different colors. Saturation, like same green color, how saturated? You can see left hand side it is less saturated and right hand side is more saturated. Luminance. Luminance is, this is here left hand side there's no luminance, and the right hand side more luminance, means more brightness. So HSL A also is there. So basically A is again the alpha. You can the same alpha here. You can specify like this. So as I said, so only these two RGBA, HSL, only these two are supported HSL. And there are CSS properties, and so the CSS, see these, there are some properties, like for example here, these properties are applicable only on fonts and text. That's why they are called font and text properties. Means only like font style, variant, whether you want it bold or lighter, whether you want false, small, medium, and what should be the height of it, line height, font family, all these things you can specify. When you're specifying the font family, there's two things, something called fallback. If see, when you specify the font, here font family, you need not specify, you can specify more than one font family in this as a value. So you can initially, you can specify more specific font names like this, Arial, Courier, and Times New Roman. And at the end, you can specify more generic family names like serif, sans serif, monospose. What happens is, whatever the first font that is specified, it will select. If it will try to display it using that font, if it is not, it will go back to the next font, and so on. So at the end, since you specified generic font family, it will use whatever is available on the operating system. So it will display that. So that way, it always knows what font to display. If nothing is specified, browser will use its own default. So this we'll keep using. I think it will take a lot of time to demonstrate all this. Where as and when required, I'll use these properties. So there's similarly, you can align the text left, right. Like for example, I would like to align the text right. I'll demonstrate that. So you can see here the text is aligned to the left. Okay. So if you want to, I think it will not be very, yeah, you can see here, there's a lot of white space here. So if you want to align right, so you can say para 1 or para 2. Text align right. And notice here, this white space will be gone. I think, I have para 2 here. Yeah, I don't have para 2, so I should put para 2. That's why it's not applicable. Para 2, and then it should be ID. Okay. Now you see here. See, now it's right hand. I'll just change that rather than to a hello. I'll change it to blue. You see now, text is right justified. You see here. Earlier it was left justified. You can change it to even center as well. If you want to center justified, you can change it to center. And you can see it now. It is now center justified. So here on left hand side, the one green color, there is a property name, and right side in the blue color, there is the value. So you can always look at the W3 schools. So here you can just go on for each of these. For example, text align if you want to see. So go down. There is something called text align. So click there. So here you can see some examples. and what are the valued values. Okay, you can see left, right, center, justify, and so on. Okay, so like that, I mean, you can specify all these properties and then corresponding values on the right hand side. And so this also, again, you can change the background color and so on. And so we talked about the box model. How do you change the properties of the box model? Again, you know about like, so dimensions. So again, width, height, minimum height. So only the color, the text displayed in the green color, that's what is the property names. Okay. So you can say here margin, and outline also you can specify. And you can position each of these elements using the position properties. Yeah, we can stop here. Fine, probably I'll continue this tomorrow. Just a few more slides. Okay. So basically, I mean, there's nothing. I mean, what I want to say is, I mean, these are all just nothing much. So each of these properties, see, just I think 2 more, we are done. It's like similarly, for list properties also you have different properties. For the tables also you have different properties. So as and when we use that, we'll use all these properties. Okay. So I'm done. I think yeah, we are almost at the end. So note that so this time the assignments are there at the end. End of the lecture from the slide 39 onwards. So go through these assignments and complete it and then submit it through by creating a ticket. Okay, and I have the reference at the end. Yeah, I'm done. We can stop here. So any questions here? Any questions? I think I'm done. So those properties, I mean, as and when we get a chance, I'll use those properties, and then I'll demonstrate that. Okay. So yeah, Rohan said he doesn't have any questions. Anyone else has any questions? Yeah, I'm done with today's class. So if you want to leave, I mean, you can leave now. So only people who has any questions, so they can stay back. So that I can answer the questions. Yeah, thanks, Amna. You too have a good day. Bye-bye. And have a nice weekend. Thanks, James. Thanks, Rohan. Yeah, Manoj, Lorraine, Rohan, Saif Ali. You have any other questions? Yeah, I'll wait until all of you leave. Just see if you have any questions. Okay, looks like there are no questions from any of you. So I'll stop today's session. Thanks for your understanding. Because we got overflown by about 20 minutes because initially we were answering few questions. Okay, thank you very much. Tomorrow we'll meet you again at 8 a.m. Indian time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.